Arts, parks, or both. A beneficial solution to an important example of negative externalities. Now that sounds fancy, but although local, this is an important issue indeed. Introduction. So according to the editors of the book, it's legal but it ain't right. Harmful social consequences of legal industries. Negative externalities are the burdens placed upon the public by many industries or private entities. An example they give in the book is the tobacco industry, which kills countless people while deriving billions of dollars in profit for itself. Locally, an example of a private entity that, if allowed, would unleash costs directly affecting the public is a performing arts promoting private nonprofit on Mercer Island, where I live, near Seattle, called Mercer Island Center for the Arts, MICA. And for years this organization has lobbied the island's city council to build an arts center on 1 out of 12 acres of an urban park downtown called Mercerdale Park. This would impose significant changes on the park without the necessary consent of the public, without a public vote. And this is a major theme in this whole dispute. So I ask the current mayor of Mercer Island, Debbie Bertlin, to recognize the need to act in favor of a certain group that formed out of resistance to MICA's proposal, Concerned Citizens for Mercer Island Parks, or CCMIP. In doing this, Bertlin would not damage MICA's overall objectives, just relocate them. Background. MICA has been looking at Mercerdale Park for about 5 years. One of its main supporters is Youth Theatre Northwest, a children's performing arts company based on the island that has lately been forced to rent an insufficient location for its activities, so it would be one of MICA's main tenants if MICA did build an arts center. Mercer Island City Council approved this park site for MICA long ago and signed a Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU, with the organization. And in this case, what that means is that MICA would be allowed to lease this acre of parkland for $1 per year for 50 to 80 years. And that's kind of an unpopular prospect. All along, CCMIP has criticized this threat of a private organization using public land without a public vote. There have been signs all over the island, there have been demonstrations, there have been many letters to the editors of the island newspaper. And it's not just CCMIP. Many other citizens have voiced the same opposition, including environmentally concerned people. The park is home to many forests, wetlands, and a native garden that its maintainers claim hosts over 30 different species native to the Pacific Northwest. And these remnants of the island's natural ecology could very well fall prey to MICA's parking and septic needs. This is a very pressing issue. It can be easily seen. And it's not new either. Islanders have proposed many times in the past that various facilities, like a fire station, like a golf course, be built on parks around this island. And many of these propositions have been struck down by public votes. So not only is this time a repeat of history, it's also fixable. But I want this situation to be an example of a permanent fix, and I'll cover that in the next section. So, my improvement is that MICA build an arts hub on private property, not a park, not this park, but not any park on Mercer Island. To do this, MICA and the City Council must first withdraw their MOU. For immediate action, I support an initiative that CCMIP has filed that would prohibit the construction of art centers on parkland. It would also mandate a public hearing for any activity otherwise permitted on parkland. And for longer-term action, I strongly recommend that all Mercer Island parks be put into the island's Open Space Conservancy Trust. This is the permanent fix I was talking about earlier. It would prevent this type of controversy from blowing up again on the island. Debbie Bertlin is the chair of this trust as well as the mayor of the island, and that is part of the reason I'm asking her to lead this action. Because of all this pressure, MICA is currently considering another location on private land, but this actually does not solve everything because CCMIP considers the situation solved only once the Memorandum of Understanding has been withdrawn, and all the parks have been put into the trust. Now, it's also important to realize that neither I nor CCMIP are against the arts in any way, shape, or form, or oppose MICA as an organization. We simply want MICA to build the Arts Center somewhere else. I'm heavily involved in the performing arts myself, and would love to see a new art center on the island. I do, though, recognize the need to protect democracy at a local level, and to protect the natural environment on a local level. This situation could become an inspiring model for the larger world. Costs. So aside from minor costs relating to the initiative campaign and educating local citizens about the need for a public vote, CCMIP will not need to spend large amounts of money for this policy improvement, and neither will the City Council. MICA has been the group mainly forced to appeal to various other groups for funds. Its project will likely require about $25 million to actualize, and so far, over the space of several years, only a few $1,000,000 have been raised. So, how feasible is this? Well, an initiative with 2,600 signatures, representing 10% of Mercer Island's population, would enact CCMIP's request into law. CCMIP did file for an initiative in 2016 and failed, but its proposition is still on the table. If it weren't on the table, MICA and the City Council must still withdraw their MOU for this policy improvement. And to prevent risk of private entities attempting to use parkland again on the island, all the island's parks must be put into the trust. So here's an example of how CCMIP has influenced the island's dynamics so far. In 2015, MICA's plans were to begin construction in 2017 and officially open the Art Center in 2018, but pressure from groups like CCMIP have ground these plans to a halt. Evidence of political support. So there haven't been any polls or any other formal count of the people who oppose MICA's proposal. It's a relatively small community. But there has been enough opposition to have afforded meaningful forward movement for MICA's project so far, like I mentioned in the last section. And it also isn't so small a community that news sources both on and off island aren't taking note of this controversy. The Seattle Times did a story on it, King 5 News covered it, even Mercer Island's high school newspaper published a story on MICA clearly in favor of CCMIP. And why this is important is that, as I alluded to earlier, MICA's project would be mainly geared toward young people. And if young people are opposing this, that means that CCMIP probably has some serious support where it needs it. So here are some pictures. On the left is shown a layout of a section of Mercerdale Park, with the area MICA would be covering shaded in blue and outlined in black. MICA's actual building would only mostly bulldoze an old defunct recycling center, but its property would extend much further and threaten wildlands and the native garden is pictured center. So on the right here is a photo of one of the many events held on Mercerdale Park's large lawn each year, showing how frequently the park is used by the community and one of the reasons it needs to be saved.